Think back to 5 years ago. You were probably making less money than you are right now, right? You lived in a smaller place, maybe you had a roommate whose dishes were always in the sink, your car made a slightly concerning clicking noise when you turned left, and your idea of a premium Friday night was splitting a $15 pizza and drinking whatever wine was on sale. And somehow, you survived. In fact, you were probably fine. You paid your bills, you hung out with your friends, and life was normal. But look at you today. You've gotten a few raises, you've changed jobs, you're bringing in an extra $1,000, maybe $2,000 a month compared to back then. So where is it? You watch the news and economists tell you that inflation is cooling down, that the consumer price index is stabilizing. Yet you look at your credit card bill and think, who are they kidding? Your life somehow keeps getting more expensive even when government inflation goes down. Why does your bank account look exactly the same, or maybe even worse, than it did when you were technically broke? My name is Scarlett, and I spend way too much time thinking about the psychological traps that steal your wealth. If you're someone who is making more money than ever, but still feels like you are living paycheck to paycheck, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Look, if you ask the average person why life is so ridiculously expensive right now, they'll instantly blame the economy. They'll point fingers at supply chain issues, corporate greed, or the Federal Reserve. And don't get me wrong, traditional inflation is a real mathematical issue. Eggs cost more, rent went up. But here's the thing, traditional inflation is only a very convenient scapegoat for a much larger, entirely self-inflicted problem. The real reason your bank account is constantly gasping for air isn't just because the cost of living went up, it's because your standard of living went up, and you didn't even notice. I call this the comfort inflation trap. It is the silent, creeping phenomenon where your lifestyle upgrades quietly replace your old, cheap habits until luxury disguises itself as a basic human need. Here's what most people don't realize. Comfort inflation is far more dangerous than economic inflation. When the government reports a 3 or 4% inflation rate, we all groan and complain. But when your personal comfort inflation rate goes up by 25% in a single year, you don't even blink. You just call it treating yourself. According to consumer spending data, over the last decade, spending on non-essential comfort categories, things like dining out, convenience services, and personal care, has drastically outpaced traditional wage growth for middle and high-income earners. We are literally outspending our own success. Let's look at the math, because you know I love the math. I want to show you exactly how a $30,000 raise can actually leave you poorer. Let's take a hypothetical 25-year-old making $50,000 a year. After taxes, they take home about $3,400 a month. At 25, they live like a 25-year-old. They pay $15 a month for a membership at Planet Fitness, they buy standard groceries and cook most of their meals, spending about $300 a month. When they fly, they take the cheapest basic economy seat at 6 a.m. They drink a $3 drip coffee. Their monthly expenses total around $2,900, leaving them with $500 of breathing room. Now, fast forward, this same person is 30 years old, crushing it in their career and now making $80,000 a year. They just got a $30,000 raise. After taxes, their take-home pay jumps to about $5,100 a month. That is an extra $1,700 of pure cash flowing into their life every single month. They should be rich, right? They should be maxing out their retirement accounts. But here's how comfort inflation silently drains the tank. First, they decide they're too old for Planet Fitness. They upgrade to a boutique fitness studio or an Equinox. That's now $180 a month. Next, they decide they care about wellness, so regular groceries are out and $500 a month at Whole Foods is in. That drip coffee, it's now a $7 iced oat milk matcha, which adds up to $210 a month. They don't just order a pizza anymore, they use DoorDash 3 times a week because they work hard and deserve the convenience. That's easily $350 a month. They upgraded their apartment to live alone, adding $600 to their rent. They pay for Spotify, Netflix, Hulu, a meal prep kit, and an app that tracks their sleep for $8 a month. When you add all of this up, their monthly expenses haven't just increased by the $1,700 they gained in extra income, their expenses have ballooned to $5,300 a month. Despite making $30,000 more a year, they're now running a $200 monthly deficit. Now, you might be thinking, Scarlett, I work hard for my money. I've earned the right to live a little better. I shouldn't have to live like a broke college student forever. And look, I hear you. I'm not telling you to sleep on a mattress on the floor and eat canned beans for the rest of your life. The problem isn't that you are spending money on nice things. The problem is the psychology of hedonic adaptation. Hedonic adaptation is a psychological concept that basically means humans are wired to get used to things incredibly fast. It's the treadmill of human desire. Think about it like the thermostat in your house. When you first step in from the freezing cold, a 70-degree house feels like a tropical paradise, but after 20 minutes, you don't even feel the heat anymore. It's just the new baseline. That is exactly what happens with your money. The first time you order an Uber Black instead of an Uber X, it feels like a massive luxury. You feel like royalty in the back of that Suburban. But if you do it 5 times, your brain adjusts. The luxury becomes the baseline, and suddenly getting into a regular Uber X feels like a downgrade, almost an insult. Once you experience 2-day Prime delivery, waiting 5 days for a package feels like an agonizing eternity. Once you buy organic, pre-chopped vegetables, chopping your own onions feels like a peasant's chore. Comfort inflation is entirely driven by this psychological flaw. We upgrade our lifestyle, but the burst of happiness we get from that upgrade only lasts a few weeks. After that, it simply becomes our new, highly expensive normal. And to get that same hit of dopamine, we have to upgrade again and again. You aren't paying for happiness anymore, you're just paying a premium to avoid the mild discomfort of going back to the way you used to live. This is where it gets really interesting, because the moment you understand that your brain is tricking you into poverty, you can actually hack the system. You can freeze your comfort inflation and keep the excess cash. So, how do you actually do that? How do you step off the hedonic treadmill without feeling like you are depriving yourself of the success you've worked so hard to achieve? Look, the first step is to ruthlessly separate a treat from a new baseline. This is a trap I see people fall into constantly. A treat is a one-off experience. Going to a Michelin star restaurant for your anniversary? That's a treat. Booking a nice hotel for a weekend getaway? Treat. Upgrading your car lease to a luxury SUV because the monthly payment isn't that much more and you drive to work every day? That is a new baseline. Signing up for a $200 meal delivery service every single week? New baseline. The danger isn't in the treats. The danger is when your fixed, recurring baseline expenses creep up so high that your entire paycheck is spoken for before it even hits your bank account. Here is a horrifying statistic for you. Recent surveys show that nearly half of all Americans making over $100,000 a year report living paycheck to paycheck. Let that sink in. 6 figures, and they are one missed paycheck away from disaster. Now, you might be thinking, well, inflation, taxes, the cost of housing. Stop. Yes, those things are real, but nobody making $100,000 a year is living paycheck to paycheck strictly because of the price of eggs. They are living paycheck to paycheck because they let their comfort inflation match their income dollar for dollar. To break this cycle, you need to implement what I call the one upgrade rule. Let me explain how this works. You are allowed to be bougie, but you are only allowed to be bougie about one thing at a time. You have to actively choose your luxury. If you are obsessed with fitness and that $180 Equinox membership brings you immense daily joy and networking opportunities, fine. keep it. But if you make that choice, you do not also get to drive a brand new Tesla, live in a luxury high-rise, and get DoorDash 4 times a week. If you care deeply about traveling and want to fly premium economy, great, but you're driving a 10-year-old Honda Civic and making your coffee at home to fund it. You see, when you try to upgrade everything at once, nothing feels special anymore. It all just becomes background noise. By forcing yourself to strategically downgrade the things you don't actually care about, you maintain that financial breathing room while still enjoying the fruits of your labor. And this leads me to the math of delayed gratification, because here is what most people don't realize about wealth. Wealth is not the money you spend. Wealth is the money you don't spend. Wealth is the gap between your ego and your income. Let's go back to our 30-year-old who just got that $30,000 raise, bringing home an extra $1,700 a month. What if, instead of upgrading the apartment, the gym, the groceries, and the convenience apps, they just hit pause? What if they said, you know what, I'm going to live exactly like a 25-year-old for just 3 more years? If they took that extra $1,700 a month and invested it in a standard S&P 500 index fund, assuming a totally average historical return of about 8%, in just 3 years, they would have over $68,000. And if they kept doing it for 10 years, that extra $1,700 a month turns into more than $310,000. I really want you to hear that number. $310,000. You are literally trading $350,000 for chopped fruit in plastic containers, slightly softer gym towels, and the convenience of not having to pick up your own takeout. When you look at the real numbers, the comfort suddenly doesn't seem so comfortable anymore, does it? Now, I know some of you are watching this and getting defensive. You're saying, Scarlett, you don't get it. I'm exhausted. I work 50 hours a week. Paying for convenience gives me my time back. And I completely agree that buying back your time is a valid financial strategy if you are actually using that time to rest, build a business, or improve your life. But let's be brutally honest here. Are you really paying a premium on Uber Eats so you can spend an extra 45 minutes reading a book to your kids or working on a side hustle? Or are you paying a premium so you can spend an extra 45 minutes doom scrolling on TikTok on your couch? If you are buying back your time just to waste it, you aren't optimizing your life. You're just bleeding cash out of pure laziness. Look, I am not trying to yell at you. Well, maybe I am a little bit, but only because I want you to win. Society is fundamentally designed to separate you from your money. Every advertisement, every influencer, every targeted algorithm is working overtime to convince you that you are somehow deprived if you don't have the newest, fastest, easiest version of everything. They are selling you comfort, but they are charging you your financial freedom. The greatest financial superpower you can develop in the modern world is the ability to say, I can afford this, but I don't need it. There's an incredible, quiet confidence in driving a regular car, living in a normal house, and knowing that your bank account is stacked. While everyone else is busy looking rich, you can actually be rich. So here is your homework for this week. I want you to go through your last 2 months of bank statements. Look at your recurring expenses and your daily habits. Find 3, just 3 things that used to be treats but have silently become part of your baseline. Maybe it's the daily coffee shop run. Maybe it's the premium cable package you haven't watched in a month. Maybe it's paying for a dog walker when you work from home. Find those 3 things and ruthlessly cut them. Reclaim that baseline. Take that money, set up an automatic transfer, and push it straight into your investment account before you even have the chance to miss it. I promise you, after the first week of mild annoyance, hedonic adaptation will kick in again, but this time in your favor. You will get used to the slightly less comfortable routine, but your net worth will be permanently higher. If this video made you rethink where your money is going, please drop a comment below and tell me the one comfort expense you're cutting out this week. I read as many as I can, and it helps me know what you guys want to see next. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next video. Until next time, stop paying the comfort tax, keep your baseline low, and I will see you in the next one.